It's time again for the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast with Dr. John Dentico. The mission of our podcast is to provide 21st century leadership training for a talent-driven world. We help organizations implement strategies and practices designed to attract, hire, engage, and retain top talent while mitigating the effects of burnout. Our guests are experts in various fields of organizational dynamics, including, but not limited to, leadership, management, communication, and coaching. They bring a world of knowledge and solutions to our viewers and listeners. I am sincerely grateful for their participation and ideas. So let's dive in. And if you enjoy our podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. We genuinely appreciate your support. Hello again and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. John Dentico. With me today is Lee Wochner, CEO and creative strategist of Counterintuity, a California marketing agency dedicated to helping nonprofits achieve their mission, with clients in New York, California, Colorado, Michigan, Florida, and other places in between. Lee is also an award-winning playwright whose plays have been produced across the United States and in Europe, a former newspaper reporter and editor, and an expert in nonprofit management, having started or managed several nonprofits and sitting on numerous profit boards. I am pleased to have him here with me today. Hello, Lee. How are you?
I'm great, John. It's really nice to be here with you and to talk about some of the things that most animate me in the world.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to that. It took us a while to get here with some missed appointments, but here we are, and glad to have you with me. So, Lee, I'd like to begin by asking you this question.
Mm-hmm.
In today's new normal post-pandemic world, what are the three mistakes nonprofits making today?
Let me start by saying that they're so good-hearted and mission-focused that they would just about kill themselves to accomplish the mission. And I have been in that space myself. So I always try to approach this from the point of generous outlook to begin with. And they do so much that it's hard to focus sometimes. And so what I would say is there's a scarcity mindset, and I'm an ardent foe of scarcity mindset, lack mentality. And rather than, and it's not just nonprofits, pretty much anybody is capable of making this mistake. And I too have made this mistake. Gee, we only have this. And because we have only this, we can't do that. And I'm always on the listen out for that. When I hear that, I say, if you wanted to do that, how could we do that? I try to reorient that right away. But I think the major issue I come into is it's very easy to get stuck in the day-to-day, the quotidian of tasks and things. And, oh, I crossed 9 things off the task list today, and so therefore I'm getting somewhere. But every day is a succession of tasks, like Sisyphus with his boulder up the mountain. And it's better to have a plan. It's better to have a vision and pursue a strategy and then break that down into tasks. And so just about everybody I work with, that's where I start. I'm like, what are we really trying to accomplish here? And how can we break this apart? And all those little steps will get you further up the mountain.
Oh, great. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm a big believer in strategic thinking, getting the right problem on the table before you start trying to solve anything.
Yeah.
Let's figure out what's really going on, what the real problem is. I liken it to buying an old house.
Mm-hmm.
When you walk in and you see all the wallpaper and the old paint on the walls, and you want to really bring it back to its original beauty. But to do that, you have to take all that paper and all that paint off first. You have to strip it down. And a lot of organizations don't seem to be too concerned. They're just going along, as you say, plan, okay, we can do this, rather than sitting back and saying, hey, let's get this thing back down to the bare walls and move on from there. So I agree. I think having a strategy is incredibly important. The great Chinese general Sun Tzu once said that tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. And I always think that's such a wonderful way of looking at it. So I agree.
So
Go ahead.
I actually live in an old house
Oh,
for California. My house was
oh,
built in 1952. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to share this quickly. And so my then wife and I went all around in 92 looking for a home to buy. And this one, the roof was off of the garage. The weeds in the backyard were up to chest level. A drug dealing rock and roll band had taken over one room, cut a big hole in the wall to look down on another room where they could rehearse. It was a disaster. And after nixing all the other places we looked at, I said to her, "This is the place. This is it." And she thought I was kidding. And I said, "No, I'm serious. This is it. You're looking at what's here now. Imagine what this could be." And that's when that's your perspective, imagine what this could be. My experience, John, is most people actually rise to that occasion. They want to imagine what could be, and they want to help make that happen. But if all you ever see is what is, then how are you going to do that?
it's interesting because that is, in essence, the difference between strategic thinking and strategic planning. Strategic planning looks at what is.
Hmm.
Strategic thinking says what can be. So it's great. It's a great story, and you've lived it, getting that house in shape again. Let me ask you this, Lee. Do you believe that the nature of leadership today in nonprofits is changing? And if you do, how would you characterize the attributes of the changing nature of leadership in this post-pandemic world?
Yeah. So I've been involved with nonprofits for, wow, 35, no, I'm getting it wrong, more 38 years, something like that. And I think what's happened is um, we've gotten more nimble. People running nonprofits, sitting on nonprofits, we've had to, and we've become more entrepreneurial. Although that word isn't always appreciated, right? Nobody wants to be entrepreneurial at a nonprofit, but for some of us, it's a shorthand. It means we will adapt to changing circumstances. And I've seen more adaptation. And in my experience, the nonprofits that adapt quickly, and I'm fortunate to work with a number of them, do well. And I don't mean rashly. I don't mean adapting rashly, right? But I looking at the asset set, looking at the challenges, figuring out what the opportunity is, um, pivoting to place the asset set in alignment with the opportunities, and then get the other assets you don't have, and not be pre-defeated. I'm an enemy of cynicism and feeling pre-defeated and saying we can't because. I'm seeing more of that, I think. And I still run into, I'm in a conversation with a nonprofit in the Pacific Northwest right now that I know they've struggled and it weighs on them, but they're very much about we don't have and we didn't have and we did, et cetera, et cetera. And you got to get out of that quickly because why get out of bed in the morning if that's how your day is going to be?
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, it comes to this having a more optimistic perspective on what can be, and we can get there. If we work together, we can
Mhm.
get there. And so I agree with that. Um, I am very familiar with the goal of most every nonprofit to increase their membership
Mhm.
or contributions. I'm sure you've seen that.
Mhm.
It's just a wheel that just keeps turning.
Yeah.
If you were tasked with helping an organization build up their membership or contributions,
Mhm.
can you please give my listeners and viewers an idea of what you would do and how you might go about it? Where do you, what's your first step, Lee?
Yeah, I am frequently tasked with that. John, that is precisely what I'm frequently tasked with. And the clients we work with, we want to help them achieve those missions. We're careful about who we work with because we're corny old school world improvers. I grew up reading comic books that made me think we could make this all better, and I still feel that way. I've been programmed by Star Trek and Marvel comics to think we could all work together better and it would all be good. Um, so I always ask them the basic reporters questions: who, what, where, when, why, and how. Who are you? That's the first thing to start with. What do you do? Whom do you do it for? How do you do it? Where is it done? Et cetera, et cetera. And those reporters questions that I practiced for years as a reporter are incredibly handy. And so I'm of the opinion that there's a tribe for pretty much every undertaking. And I belong to some pretty narrow and select tribes in my private life. There's a rock band I adore, and then there are like, I don't know, 1,000 or 300 super fans of us around the world, right? I'm in that tribe. So there is that group is absolutely right for some people. And my fiance, I think, doesn't want to hear their music. I'm trying to bring her along. What is your message, and who is it for, and how are you talking about it? And I had a meeting with a very nice woman the other day who's running a nonprofit devoted to an artistic undertaking. And she doesn't understand why she's getting no donations. And I said, but I don't understand why someone would donate to this, because everything you're doing is to serve those individual artists and not the art form overall, and not for public consumption. It's to serve them in their career. So we could talk about membership, because building awareness to get you more members makes sense, because those members can share opportunities. But the idea of people outside that bubble making a donation seems far flung to me, because not only are you not yet making that case, I don't know how to make that case. So, as an example, John, let's say that you are interested in basket weaving and you have other basket weavers and you stand up a nonprofit to support basket weavers. I just don't quite understand who else that's for. It's for the people making the craft. If you want to sell them, there are certainly channels to sell them, but getting people to donate to support your work of being a basket weaver seems like a stretch when there's so many more pressing issues.
Okay, great. This leads me to my next question about, again, this overall sense of who you are. I thought pointing to that
Yeah.
was key.
Yeah.
Who are you? What do you do? And
Hmm.
what do you want to do for other people? So I
Hmm.
think it's about having that galvanizing, if you will, mission statement.
That's
So
right.
I'd like to. So that comment you made leads me to this next question. And I've been motivated by this because my previous guest, Barry Labov, who's just written a book on branding,
Mm.
which I'm now reading, is really has brought this sense of branding to my attention in a big way. So let me ask you this question.
Hmm.
So let's talk about branding for a moment. Do you think most nonprofits do a good job of branding, of creating a galvanizing message that acts as a call to action? And without naming names, and maybe you've already done this, can you give us an example of a nonprofit who did it right or one that didn't do such a good job?
Yeah. Do most of them do a good job? Wow. So in California, there are 190,321 nonprofits.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's probably just on my street, right? But literally in California, there are 190,321. I don't know if 95,000 plus of them have done a good job. That would be hard to answer. I will tell you the campaign I think about the most. And I, before I say this, I am a dog lover. And when I start to share this with you, I may tear up about the dogs. I'm just like a marshmallow about dogs. I love dogs. The campaign of Who Saved Who, which you find across so many of the dog rescues, ASPCA, et cetera. I forget who started that campaign, but now it has spread. When I watch those videos, I just, it's all I can do to hold the tears back. See, I am getting choked up. And it is true. My dogs, I always get dogs who are rescues. And so the first video I saw was an overweight gentleman of middle age, a little bit younger. And he decided he wanted to run more, and he wanted to lose weight, and he was not in good shape. And he went to the shelter and he said, I want a middle-aged dog. I'm going to save a middle-aged dog. It's very hard for me not to get emotional about this. That's how good this is. And he started running with the dog and saved the dog. But really, the dog saved him from depression, from overweight, from feeling down. And he got in good shape, and then the dog died.
Oh, what a
And
shame.
well, from old age. And then he said, the dog saved me. So then he went and got another one. It just, that's an amazing story. That's just an amazing story. And the nonprofits who don't do this so well, we don't know them by name because they don't succeed. And they're good people. I don't meet too many evildoers running social improvement nonprofits. That's the thing. Like I did a marathon. I just wanted to do a marathon some years ago, and I wanted to train with other people. I wanted to meet a new set of people. And AIDS is not my personal issue, but I signed up with AIDS Project LA because they'll train you, they'll run you around Griffith Park, which was fantastic. And you get trained to run a marathon and you raise money for a good cause. So I went and did that. And I just met fantastic people. Many of them I'm still in touch with, raised money for a cause, got to do a marathon outside Amsterdam. And it occurred to me, they were all such good people. And then I'm like, you know what? It's mostly good people at nonprofits. Nobody sets out to do evil by running a nonprofit. No one I've come across anyway. So the ones that have not succeeded with it, I like to think that they haven't succeeded with their branding yet. And I always encourage them. And there's lots of information on the Counterintuity website in our podcast. I do solo casts about ways inexpensively or for free to start rethinking about yourself and your message. And I wish more of them would do that, because there is a compelling story they could tell. They haven't gotten there yet. But when you've got that compelling story and you're on Dr. John Dentico's podcast, someone will cry when you've got that story right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I hope so. I hope we're bringing some useful information to the listeners and to the viewers, certainly. And I think it's so important, and it's difficult. It's difficult, I think. I've seen it happen. I'm working with a company right now to do a strategic thinking program. And I asked them to send me their mission statement. Okay, let's start there. Now, you well know that many times you get mission statements, organizations hang them on the wall and they never look at them again. You know what I'm saying? Do you have a mission statement? Yeah, it's over there. So isn't that what you wanted? I want to know what you live by. I want to know what the reason you get up out of bed in the morning. I want to know that. That is so important. So they sent me like a half a page. We did this, we did. And I said, no. I have to have one sentence.
That's right. That's right.
One sentence that says, everybody is going to unite under this, if I can use this military sensibility, we're going to unite under this flag. We're going to plant our flag, and this is going to be who we are, what we do, and what we're trying to do for our clients and our customers. All rolled into one. There's no confusion here. It has to be so clear. And we managed, working with one of the senior leaders, we managed to develop. I said, this is what you want. I said, this is what I'm going to use. I don't know if it's what you want, but this is the one I'm going to use, because we have to have a galvanizing message. So I think that's so important, whether you're a one-person operation or whether you are a significant nonprofit or for-profit organization. You have to have a galvanizing message that everybody can align with and understand simply and clearly. Any thoughts on that?
My thought is I agree 100%. And one of the things I hear myself say to clients all the time, so I have clients who would like to give you, John, 50,000 words to read about themselves, right? And my reply always is, I still read great Russian novels, but most people don't. And no one's going to read that. So I completely agree with what you said. And I'll tell you where I've taken it, because the mission statement is frequently a snake pit that they can't get out of. And I love how you talked about it. And what I ask them is, what are the core values that you operate from and that animate you? And I know it. I've done a limiting exercise. I've limited them to 3 to 5 core values and 5 to 7 words. And then it gets very focused, because it has to.
I agree. And if you don't have a statement of purpose, a mission statement that you live by every day, that the CEO and everybody says, that's who we are, this is what we do, you're really missing an amazing opportunity to really get people to believe and to believe in the organization and to give their best effort every day.
The core values thing is especially handy because it operates like a self-cleaning oven. It just burns off all sorts of problems.
That's exactly right.
Like
That's
right.
If
your core value is collaborative and you're working with somebody who just is a pain in the neck, that's not what we do. Our core value is to be collaborative. If your core value is can do, and you hear can't do all the time from someone, well, you go, you're not being very can do, et cetera, et cetera. It just burns off all sorts of nonsense.
That's a great way of looking at it. It's a wonderful metaphor. So I appreciate that very much. Lee, I want to move on to another sentence here, another question, I should say.
Yeah.
And so let's see where we go with this one. This could be interesting.
Okay.
Most nonprofits use volunteers
Mm-hmm.
to help in their day-to-day activities as well as during times of high activity, seasonal or whatever it might be.
Yep.
Do you think most nonprofits use volunteer resources properly? And in your opinion, what does it take to attract and keep volunteers? That is to say, why would volunteers stay with any nonprofit organization?
Okay. Everyone wants to lead a life of meaning. Everyone. And when you're a volunteer, you have found a new tribe, right? And you've taken meaning from the activity, and you get those hits of dopamine that just make you feel so good because you're contributing something. So in 1992, I wanted to open a theater, and I had no money to do this. I had nobody, and there was a woman who wanted to direct a play of mine, and we had started this nonprofit on paper. There were 5 of us who started it. And then nothing was happening with the guy who was going to be the founding artistic director. He was a nice guy. And one day I just decided, look, this is not a heroic story about me. This is an example because everybody can be heroic as a volunteer.
Right.
So one day I'm like, I've had enough of this. And I quickly did a little demographic research. Where was there a theater audience in Los Angeles that I thought was not served well enough? And I got in my car and I drove around this area of Los Angeles called Silver Lake. And I found a place for rent. And I walked in, and it was a former police substation. And I met the landlord, and he said, "What do you want it for?" I said, "I'm going to put a theater here." He said, "You can't put a theater in here." And see, I love being told you can't, because you know what? I can actually. And then I went back to this director and I said, "I found a place for us to open a theater." And she goes, "I just wanted to direct that play." And I said, "Now you can direct lots of plays. We'll have a theater." And then she said, "But there's only 2 of us." And I said, "No, other people will come." And so then it became about, hey, we're going to build a theater because we had to build it too. Do you want to build this theater with us? And who wants to work the board? Who wants to do costumes? Who wants to, et cetera, et cetera. And 32 years later, that theater is still going strong, although now we got a bigger one.
Great.
So it's just, and how do you get volunteers? You and I both know this. You express the mission to them and what their role in it will feel like. And I was chair of a board that planted trees here in Burbank, California. And I bought some trees on behalf of my family, and there's a little plaque. I got a little plaque, and I drive past that park pretty much every day. And now they're great big flowering trees. Makes me feel awesome. Everybody wants that, and everybody can get that. The individuals need to get off the couch, right? But the nonprofits have to get them off the couch. And the way to get them off the couch is to say, we're doing important work for animals, for the economy, for social justice, for environment, for whatever. We're doing important work that you can be part of. And here's what that work is, and here's what you can be doing. Here's how that will feel.
I can't. Go ahead.
Well, when I was in college, I wanted to take over the student newspaper because I just didn't like it was coming out occasionally. And I'm like, this has to come out every week. And so I went around and I got appointed. The professor who was the advisor said, "You can't be the editor," which again, I love that. And semester showing to her that I had all the skills and I was going to do it. And she said, "You're right. You are the editor." And then I found out there was no staff. And I walked around campus and I found everybody who looked like they didn't have anything to do, playing a video game, sitting around, unloved by other groups. Everybody has potential, John, and you know that. Everybody has
Right.
potential. And I invited them all to a party. And so we had a party at the office of the Atlantic Review, and we had a great time. All these people met all these other people. We had a fantastic time. And I said, the great news here is we get to have that party every Friday after we put out the newspaper. And you know what? We did that. The newspaper came out every week. We had a party, and it's 38, 40 years later, and they're still my friends. I'm still friends
Wow,
with them.
that's
That's
great.
what a nonprofit can do for you. A community endeavor helps you discover your mission in life and make you part of affecting a change.
In 1997, I read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning,
Huh?
and it changed my life. To be very honest with you, it changed my whole perspective about things. Frankl talks about three ways to create meaning in your life. Number one is to do something, write a book, build a theater, write a play, whatever, climb a mountain.
Hmm.
The second one is the relationships we keep. Children, for example, give parents this overwhelming sense of meaning in their lives, I'm sure. And the third one is to, as he put it, suffer nobly, to make the best of a bad situation, which I think is somewhat overlooked these days. That I was talking to a previous guest about this notion of the human sensibility about fight or flight. We humans have two choices, fight or flight. And the answer is no, there's a third choice. And the third choice is dig in and endure. And a lot of people don't look at that. You know
That's
what I mean?
great.
Just dig in and I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to endure it. But I see that in the end, it will bring me a sense of meaning. For me, meaning is the single greatest motivation force on the planet.
Hmm.
Provide someone the opportunity to gain meaning from the things that they do, and you've lit them on fire. In fact, I wanted it. In fact, it's a lot of what I'm working on now in terms of mitigating the effects of burnout. And people are burning out. Why is that? Well, they probably lost a sense of meaning. They probably feel perhaps micromanaged, or there's something in their life that is just overwhelming. So I absolutely agree with you. Whether you're in a profit, not for profit, meaning is so important. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. It was a great comment.
Thank you. The Viktor Frankl book is an amazing achievement that has helped untold millions of people, that book.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I read his also. I read the other one. The follow was called "Man's Search for Ultimate Meaning" as well. But the first, as I recollect, the first 88 pages talk about his trials in Auschwitz. He just wants to lay out for you what they went through before he imparts on this whole journey of creating meaning. And I think it's so very important. It's just amazing. What I'd like to do now is we're getting close to the end already. And
Mhm.
I'm sorry I have to say that we're getting close to the end because I've truly enjoyed this opportunity to speak with you. And I'll give you my route last question, and that's the magic wand question. And that is simply this: if you had a magic wand
Mm.
and you could wave it at an issue or a problem that you see out in the world today, what would that issue be? And why, may I ask, did you select it?
I'm just an enemy of cynicism and defeatism. And when I come across it, I tell people all the time, don't be pre-defeated. Nobody changed the world by being pre-defeated. And when we were talking briefly about core values, I mentioned can do because it came to mind because can do is one of the core values at my company. And when you look at the history of people who had a can do mentality, it's amazing what they were able to do. And I'm so glad that you're helping people with burnout because it's a menace. There aren't good reasons for I there aren't good reasons for burnout. It doesn't have to be. I understand people get tired and feel overwhelmed, but there are ways to counter that, and I certainly know you know them because you referenced a couple. So if I could wash away cynicism, cynics really annoy me. They just don't accomplish anything. They just weigh other people down. They think they're cute and clever and get little chuckles of appreciation, but really they're just a drag on planet Earth. They're a drag on the people and all the other life forms here, and they just annoy the hell out of me.
I agree. I'm a former naval officer, and when I was in the Navy, we built everything on can do. It was never can't do. It was, hey, we got to go do this. It's hard. Okay, fine. We'll go do it. We'll figure out a way. And that's always the thing if there's one thing I've learned is put a group of people in a room, sit them down with a problem or an issue and say, hey, listen, this is an issue. Buy them lunch if you have to, and say, how do we get there from here? The model of leadership that I have worked on for the past 30 years has one foundational piece, one. And that foundational piece is contribution. We have a problem. We need ideas. We need contribution. We need people to stand up and say they can help us get from point A to point B. It doesn't make any judgment about anybody, ethnicity, whatever. It makes no judgments in that area. What it says is, we're here together. We want to contribute together. Let's figure out a way to get there from here. And I think most people want that. Most people are looking for that. One of the things I talk about that's a big wish of the skill talent pool in the world today is they want to be involved in the decision-making processes of the organization. They want to matter. They want to gain meaning from the things that they do, and they want their work to matter. And the question, of course, is, can we provide them the opportunity to gain meaning from the things that we do? And I think contribution goes a long way in saying, you matter. Yeah, here, let's go. We're in this together.
One of the things we hear at our company all the time is that applicants for positions and current staff want to work with us because we work with nonprofits, because the work is meaningful. It's not, look, we need marketing of all sorts of things, right? But it's not marketing can openers or something, right? Or some new aftershave, which those things are important too. But marketing fostering and adopting children. That's one of our clients we're pretty focused on right now. I had a healthy family growing up. Imagine if you had no family and you're heading toward adulthood. So that's really important work. And another is helping end the cycle of homelessness, which is an epidemic in Los Angeles and elsewhere. So a lot of the people who come to me as clients or as people working at the agency express just what you're saying, that it's meaningful work to them. And I believe in a life after this, but we know we have this one. Don't misuse this one.
I absolutely agree. Lee, it's been an honor and a privilege. And I want to thank you so very much for your time today here on the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I wish you and all your team members continued great success in the future. Thank you so very much for your time.
It's a real pleasure, John. Thank you.
Thank you.